If you're in Seattle, and you need to buy or sell a home, we'll be right there for you. Because we're the realtors that you can trust. So go to ronanddonsitdown.com.
You're listening to The Ron and Don Show on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Hey, you guys, what's going on? And welcome to another edition of the Ron and Don Show. And guess where we are? We're back in the Les Schwab Studios.
What is up, Ron and Don Nation?
Hey, coming up on the Ron and Don Show, we're going to find out what Ron has been listening to on his podcast. Also, what are we watching late at night? Maybe on TikTok when no one's looking or lurking. Yeah, anyway, I'm looking at some embarrassing stuff. Also, coming up on the show, pretty excited about this. We got to talk about some traps. There's some warnings from older people about to be deadened in the box, and they say to us younger people, are we still younger people?
Yeah, I think we're younger people.
They say to us younger people, hey, here are some of the traps you need to look out for. And in fact, one of my clients is 95 years old. I was talking to him about this yesterday, and I said, hey, you know, maybe I'm 30 years away from that, 35. What are some things I need to be concerned about? He had a lot to say, though. Before we get to that, though, let's get to this. We're bringing back, well, little top 5 at 5.
Ron and Don's top 5 at 5. 5, 3, 2, 1.
All right, let's get to story number 1 on Ron and Don's top 5 at 5. Target, who has struggled a little bit, and we see some of the big box stores, some of the big realtors, not the realtors. I have real estate on my mind because we're going to talk about real estate a lot today. Some of the big retailers, as we're heading towards the holidays, they don't want people just to sit there, Ron, and order stuff on Amazon. They want you to come on into the brick and mortar store. So Target has some new folks that are in charge, and they said this is what they would like people to do that are working in the stores. They have a new policy. It's called the 10-4 policy, and I want to get your thoughts.
10-9?
Yeah, 10-4, 10-9, and the 10 code means you're supposed to repeat yourself. So anyway, here's the new policy. It says the new policy requires employees who are within 10 feet of customers to smile. This is from the USA Today. If you're within 10 feet, you have to smile. You have to make eye contact. You have to wave, and you have to use friendly, approachable, and welcoming body language. Uh-oh. Also, if you're within 4 feet, then you must personally greet the guest, smile, and initiate a warm, helpful interaction. If you're within 2 feet, you're supposed to give them a hug and a kiss on the lips.
Exactly.
So this is pretty crazy.
Can I just say I've heard of this policy before? It's when I heard it, it was called being a human being.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, time out.
Your thoughts on the 10-4 policy?
I am going to push back on this. Here's the thing that extroverts always do. Extroverts think that everybody likes to be like them. Extroverts think that everybody wants to be greeted. Everybody wants a smile and a look in the eye. And that is not true. So as someone that's an introverted extrovert, especially at Target, and this policy sort of has crept into Starbucks as well, if I'm going to Target most of the time, I know what I want to get. So maybe it's like I need to get some paper towels and I need to get a pair of socks.
Wait, you go to Target to buy paper towels?
I'm just making stuff up.
When's the last time you've been to Target?
I bought a ninja thing at Target. That was the last time I was at Target.
Like a ninja?
A ninja ice cream maker.
Oh.
And so if I'm going there, I know exactly what I want to get.
You want a ninja?
I want to get the ninja.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that I know that it's going to be in Home Goods.
And some paper towels in case the ninja makes a mess.
So here are the two problems I see with this policy. Number one is I don't have an expectation of being greeted at Target. I have an expectation that when I find the ninja, that it will be a competitive price. And they actually matched the Amazon price for me in the store, which I appreciated. So I had the Amazon app open. I showed the guy the thing, and they matched the price. Nice. I was in and out. Yeah. I knew what I wanted. The second issue that I have, I don't need this. This does not make me more loyal to Target. It's not going to make me spend more money at Target because of the second reason. What if I run into 18 employees between the front of the store and the back of the store? I'm going to be greeted 18 times. So let's say I'm going to electronics, which is at the back of the store.
Yeah.
So I come in, the greeter's going to greet me. Then I go by women's leggings. That person's going to greet me. Next up is shoe department. Shoe department guy's going to greet me. I take a left into sporting goods. Sporting goods guys now greet me. It's like, I'm just trying to get a new battery for whatever, but electronics is all the way in the back. So now I get my stuff. Now I got to walk that gauntlet back. And if I penetrate the 10-foot zone, I'm getting greeted again on the way. This would drive me to never shop at Target again.
Yeah, I have to say this. It depends on where you're shopping. Like, I have been into numerous drugstores here in Seattle. There's no one working in those drugstores. You can't find you can't find anyone to help you, and it's because of the way that employees are treated when they go in these drugs. I went into.
Do you just want access, or do you want them to be friendly?
Hang on, I went into a Walgreens the other night because I was going to get a shot that I signed up for online. So when I get there to get my flu shot, they tell me I need to stand in line. So I stand in line. At the end of the line, then there's something I need to do on my phone, which I do on my phone. So I'm ready to go. I'm supposed to sit in this chair, and they're going to call me for my appointment. So I go sit in the chair. There's a line out the door there at Walgreens, and it seems like there's only two people working there. Someone's working in the pharmacy, and someone's working at the cash register. And out front of this pharmacy, this Walgreens in Ballard, it's just a dump because people are out there just dumping their shiznit. There's people out there doing drugs out on the side, all that stuff that you get in a store that you wouldn't want to work in. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm supposed to get my shot at 4:50. I got something in the oven at home because I'm making some dinner for my son and his friends. And so 10 minutes goes by, 15, 20. And then so I get back in line, and I raise my hand, and the woman says, "Well, you need to fill out the form." I'm like, "Well, I filled out the form." They send me the form. They send me the form on my phone 3 times, and I fill out the form. I end up, long story short, waiting 50 minutes for the woman to finally come out and give me a shot. She's in the other room just reading a book because there's no connection, and everyone's trying to use AI now, and the AI is very clumsy. Airbnb, and I won't go into those sorts, is trying to use AI, and it's very clumsy. It's not helpful right now, but maybe it'll be helpful down the road. Different experience I had, though, when I was way down in the South End, and I walked into a Walmart there, and I was in a hurry. There were 2 people standing at the door along with a security person. As soon as I walked in the door, they greeted me. They said, "What are you looking for? Can we help you?" I shared with them what I was in fact, I was looking for a tripod. I was heading to my son's football game. I was late. They were missing their tripod. They told me exactly where it was. I went back. I got the tripod. I got in line. And there were a lot of people actually working in this store. And even when I got back there looking for the tripod, there was somebody back there that said, "Hello, and can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for it." So I found it in that instance to be very helpful.
So let me throw this out at you.
It seems like in the city of Seattle, we have a hard time finding people that will even work in these stores. And then I find when I went to that Walmart, or I went to a drugstore, one of our clients is a pharmacist way out the I-90 corridor, and I had to go to her pharmacy one day because I was doing some work on her house. I walked in there. It was clean. It was nice. I was greeted. I loved it. And I will say this. My son just filled out an application, and he's going to work, I think, in a store like on Sundays up on the top of Queen Anne. It's a grocery store that you and I go to a lot. It's a mom and pop. I know the mom and pop. And I said, "Hey, where do kids start out here?" They said, "Well, they start out we start them out in the kitchen, washing dishes, making food." And he said, "Then what we see is, do they have the skill set to talk to people?" He said, "We have a really hard time finding kids that are 15, 16, 17, even 18 years old that can even talk and interact because they've been on their phones and their iPads so much." And I notice this even with my son's friends when they come over. Sometimes they don't even talk to you. They sit down on the couch. You bring them food. They turn on TV. They're playing games. They leave. They don't say hello, Mr. O'Neill. They don't say thank. They don't say any of that. Not their fault, but it's because they are attached to these screens all the time. And what a job teaches you when you're younger is to have human-to-human connection. And there's a lot of young people that don't know how to do that. And I think Target is probably running into that.
So let me throw this scenario out at you because I've known you for 50 years. You're at Walgreens.
I just was at Walgreens.
Same scenario.
I couldn't find anyone to help me.
You're getting frustrated. Now, there's a big.
I was frustrated.
I'm throwing this out to you.
Yeah.
There's a line of people standing there. I'm at the 10-4 rule. So I'm just going on my break, but I'm in my Walgreens uniform. I don't work in pharmacy. I work at wherever I work. I'm going to walk by and greet every person in that line. By the time I get to the end, you're going to want to punch me in the face.
No, I don't think that's the policy. I would think what they're trying to do, Ron, is they're trying to get young people to start a conversation.
I'll give you that.
And then when somebody says, "Hey, could you?"
I'm just saying
now
this blanket policy. Hire people that are friendly people.
It's hard. I don't think you can.
Right.
I mean, I don't think you've hired people in a while. You should go out and try to hire people that are of this generation that can't talk.
First thing I'm going to do is build a drugstore.
No, I say like when
I understand what you mean.
like when I am out, like when I talk to my son's football coaches and I volunteer and I work with those guys. I said, "What is the hardest thing?" They said, "1, getting them to talk to us. 2, getting them to talk to each other."
Oh, I 100% agree with that.
You and I, growing up playing sports, we didn't have screens. We were out building ramps and all the stuff that we talk about, or building tunnels in the farmer's field across the street.
We're on our 9th concussion by the time we were son's age.
Yeah. So, and I saw that firsthand with these kids that don't know how to talk, and now you're going to bring them into the workplace. So, the 10-4 policy, 10-4. I like it. What else is going on?
Ron and Don's Top 5 at 5.
Number 2.
So for story number 2, I need to go to the whiteboard because I got a whiteboard.
We got Ron's whiteboard. All right, this is exciting. Let's bring the whiteboard out. We were on the phone with some clients the other day, you guys, and as we're on the phone with clients and talking to them, they were saying, "Hey, should we list right now? I'm ready to list." And just so you know, we are between October 31st,
Oh my God,
and January 1st. In fact, we're getting ready for Thanksgiving if you're listening to this podcast at another time. And we always tell people, list in the spring or the fall, shop during the holidays, or shop during the summer, right? That's what we always tell people. And then you pulled out your whiteboard online. We're doing a Zoom call, and the information that Ron shared really blew our clients away.
So the Northwest MLS is the largest database of real estate information in the Pacific Northwest. And in fact, your Redfins and Zillows and Trulias, all those companies pay a fee to the Northwest MLS to get some of their data. But the NWMLS holds back some data, and because Don and I pay dues, we have to pay membership dues to the NWMLS, that we get access to this data. So what I've done here is done median sales price for all of King County going back 10 years. So we got 2015 over here, and over by Don is 2025. And then on this side is median sales price. So in 2015, the median sales price was under $400,000.
This is King County.
This is King County only.
And if you want to watch this, you can watch this on YouTube right now because the show's on YouTube.
And when we do a Ron and Don sit down, I can break it down to your zip code. We can get very, very specific to your region. And so on this axis here, you got 0.4 million up to $1 million. All right.
So the median price in 2015 is about, for those that are listening on the podcast,
about 400,000.
About 400,000.
And so the median, and that's all pieces of real estate in King County. And then as we go all the way to 2025, it peaked in about 2023 at a little over 900,000 for the average sales price, the median price. But the thing I want to talk about is in terms of timing. So as we travel along time here, you're going to see something that happens every single year as far back as I can go. And that is when we get to the beginning of a year, you can see it really closely here in 2016. 2016, we're going through, this is November, October, December. It hits the first of the year, and then bam, things go up.
So every time you see it go up, that's the spring, right?
Not every time, but most of the time.
That's
so
the spring
2016, it goes up, levels off, and then it goes down again to January. 2017, bam, takes up like a rocket.
Wow, yeah.
We get to 2018, goes up.
Yeah.
Now, here's interesting. 2019 through 2021, what was happening here? This is when we were getting into COVID.
2020 was COVID.
And
yeah,
so
March of 2020 was COVID.
So 2019 going into 2020,
wow.
And then things really took off. You remember the government artificially suppressed interest rates. So we took interest rates at the Fed, I think were like 0% or 0.5%. And then in the mortgage market, we had under 3% interest rates.
Incredible.
So a lot of people got 2.8, 2.75. What happened? So look at 2021, January January of 2021. Takes off like a rocket ship and then goes down in the fall. So October, November, where we are right now. And then January 2022, look at that spike. So this goes from January to maybe April or May.
And that's when word was out that the 2.8% interest rates that we saw, those were going to go away. So the spring of 2022, we saw the biggest spike on this chart.
So this is when they started to raise interest rates. Fed was
right.
going up like half a point per meeting.
Yeah.
And so it went from a 0% interest at the Fed up to like 7% interest in a year, maybe a little bit over a year. And so what happens to median sales price? It plummets to 2023. And I use plummets in air quotes because it's still vastly more expensive than 2015, but you get my point. So around 2023, but even as interest rates were rising and we get to January, what happens? Bam, it shoots up again. 2024 shoots up again. 2025 shoots up again. This right here, this big thing that I'm reaching over, Don, to show you, what was happening then, that's when anxiety, that's when the new election cycle happened. We had a new president, and there was Doge, and ICE was happening. A lot of policy changes were going on, the SNAP benefits, insurance.
A lot of fear about tech people losing their
A
jobs.
lot of fear. And so
Yeah.
we see median price go down. But when we hit 2025, it went up again. And then we've been chopping sideways right now through the rest of 2025. So when people talk about, hey, Ron and Don, when should I sell? When should I buy? The reason why we tell you to sell in the spring is because the springboard is real.
Yeah.
And if I broke this down by Pierce County, Island County, Kirkland, Redmond, you name it, slice and dice it.
See the same?
Well, sometimes if you're in Maidenbower, let's say, where there's just not a lot of data points,
Yeah.
it'll be really choppy. This helps us smooth out the line a little bit because we get enough transactions to get us clean data. So there are some neighborhoods where you will put this in and it's not as smooth as this. But by and large, this is the trend as we break it down by county-wide, it'll look like this.
What do you tell people that get married to the 2022 spring number? Because when we sit down with people to sell their home, they're like, well, hey, Bob and Susie or whoever sold their home. They're often referring to that spike in 2022, right?
Yeah, and the market is dynamic, and the market moves, and the market ebbs and flows. And so what something was worth in 2022 may not be worth that in 2025. Even within a couple of months, we just recently had a listing that had it been on the market during this phase,
The spring market.
would have been line out the door.
Yeah.
And then, if it comes on in this phase, it's crickets.
The
And
late fall, yeah.
The market can change on a dime. The market can change sometimes on one news story. So that story we talked about a couple episodes ago of, Amazon's going to lay off 30,000 people, that could literally change the real estate market in a day. So it could be, you're getting a lot of showings, people are really interested, market is moving, and a story like that, if it involves Amazon, Microsoft, or a big economic story, or if, let's say, the National Guard showed up in Seattle, that could change a marketplace in a day.
And we're going to talk more about this on the Friday show. On Friday, we do just a 15-minute show, and all we do is we talk about real estate. So make sure you check this out if you're thinking about buying, selling, investing. Real quick, though, Ron, and this is great. And again, Matt, if people want to see this graph, they go to YouTube, they go to Spotify. What's the best way to actually see the show? Because this is all on camera as well.
YouTube and Spotify, absolutely.
Okay. So you can see the graph. So we've talked a lot about the spikes. Talk about the troughs, because the troughs are really, in fact, we were out yesterday with one of our buyers and we're like, hey, in fact, I was out with 3 different buyers yesterday. These are buyers that have bought multiple properties. They know when to shop. They don't shop interest rate. They shop time of year. And this really is the time, and your chart proves that, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, and again, if we do a run and on sit down, I can dial into the place that you're actually looking. Yeah. But at the end of every year, and it's gone back for at least 10 years, you're going to see a drop. In median price, a drop in demand. There was one year, and I forget which one it was, it might have been 2024, where stuff shifted back into January, which usually happens in February, March. But that's, again, within 30 days or so. So October through the first of the year, typically, you're going to be able to find the best deals as a buyer.
Okay. Ron's going to put his chart away, and then we're going to get ready for story number 3. If you're interested and more information about story number 2, what I want you to do is make sure you check out the YouTube page and you check out the Spotify. In fact, Spotify will take you to YouTube, and make sure that you look at this. It looks like Ron spent a lot of time on. How much time did you spend on your graph?
I mean, I tried to make it as accurate as I could.
It's cool.
Yeah, so it's pretty close to the actual graph.
All right, let's get story number 3.
Ron and Don's Top 5 at 5.
Number 3.
All right, let's get into story number 3, which connects with story number 2. The president came out the other day, and I think after some of the election losses for the Republicans, they're like, hey, we were listening. We're hearing affordable. That's how Democrats won these seats. And they're like, okay, well, let's make things affordable. Instead of having a 15-year mortgage, 30-year mortgage, and that 30-year mortgage was born back during the Depression, why don't we do this? Why don't we do a 50-year mortgage? And the president, I heard him this morning, champion the 50-year mortgage. Ron, what say you?
This is such a Trumpian story to me, because the way this went down is there is an advisor that the president really likes, and he's not a cabinet level advisor, just a guy that he likes and connects with. And so what this person did is he made up a poster board, and the poster board had I think it was President Eisenhower. It could be wrong on that president, but it said 30-year mortgage, and then it had a picture of President Trump, and it said 50-year mortgage, and some sort of moniker at the top. And so he brought it in and was explaining to the president, wouldn't this be great? So without talking to any financial advisors, without talking to anyone at Freddie or Fannie or the Fed or anything, Donald Trump just takes a picture of the poster and puts it out on True Social as this is what we're doing. And so he makes no consultation at all with anybody, but he likes this guy and he really liked the poster.
Great.
So he's like, oh, this is sort of a Mount Rushmore
He
thing
is very visual.
where I'm going to, if my picture's up next to another great president, good. So he puts that out.
There must have been some gold on the poster.
And then immediately everybody that knows anything about this was going, they're like, no, ba.
Yeah.
Like, not so fast. So the biggest problem that I've read about with this proposal is when you go to a 50-year mortgage, yes, your monthly payment goes down. The problem is in most parts of the country, in Seattle, I think you could overcome this, but in most parts of the country, that slows your equity building almost to nothing. So if you imagine this as a faucet, with a 15-year mortgage, or a 10-year mortgage, or you pay cash, your equity faucet is wide open. As you increase the years on your loan, that equity goes down and down and down. By the time you get to 50 years, it's a drip.
Because you're paying a lot of that interest up front.
And then the money you're going to pay on the house, if you did a $500,000 house with a 50-year mortgage, by the time you pay that off in 50 years, you've paid almost double the price of the house in interest.
I did the math on a $450,000 50-year mortgage. And you're going to pay close to $1 million for that house. And let's face it, good luck finding a $450,000 house here in the great Pacific Northwest. That's not going to happen. So here's some ideas that people have talked about before. And I wonder if these ideas might have traction. One of those ideas is an assumable mortgage. So let's say that you want to buy someone's house and they were lucky during COVID and they were able to go out and get a 2.8% interest loan. You may be able to step in and you may be able to assume that loan.
Yep.
Right? So other people have talked about assumable loans. What are your thoughts on assumable loans? Or if you have a really good interest rate, they talk about a carryover loan. So let's say you have a
portable loan.
Yeah, a 3.5 on your house, and you're going to go buy another house. You could take that loan with you and that interest rate with you. If you were to do something like that, is real estate experts, to me, that could actually be very, very helpful.
They could be, but for many, many people, they'll be in the same boat. So let me explain. I have a $1.5 million house, and I've owned it for a long time. The interest rates dropped to 2.75. I refinance. So my house is worth $1.5 million, but my loan balance is only $300,000. So I refinance 400,000 at this lower interest rate. I have a great payment. I don't want to move. And so now you come in, you're going to assume my loan. Well, the house is now 1.5 million. So you're only assuming 400,000 of that at the lower interest rate. You still have to pay 1.5 million. So that 1.1 million either needs to be in cash or a second mortgage. Most second mortgages don't want to be in second position if the balance is greater than the first position. And so most lenders are going to go, no, I'm not going to be in second position to this 3.8% loan for 400 grand, and you're borrowing 1.1 from me.
So it's possible, but it depends on the situation. It really does.
So if you reverse that and it's like, hey, you just got a great loan and it's very close to the house is worth $1 million, but the loan is for 800 and I can come up with the 200. Great. Like that would be phenomenal for me to inherit that loan. The portable loan to me is more interesting, but again, it means that you've already gotten into your first home. Mm-hmm. That's the barrier. The barrier for most people is acquiring the first home. But let's say you did that. And so now I have this great interest rate and I'm like, oh, my family's growing, I'm moving, whatever. I'm going to take that loan and move. Well, now when I sell the house, I will get cash for whatever my equity position is. And then I also have whatever the balance of that loan was as my buying power. I like that one a lot, but it presupposes that you've already had the wherewithal to acquire a piece of real estate in the beginning. None of this is easy. None of this is easy. It's complicated, and that's why Don and I have careers in real estate, because it's not easy. It's different for everyone. And, for instance, we had a client a while back that got a big amount of proceeds for their house, and they're like, I'm going to put it all into the new house. And I was like, time out. Go talk to your financial advisor. Maybe you should hold some cash back. You don't need to put that much money as a down payment. I know it feels good because your monthly note goes way, way down, but would it be more beneficial for that to go up a couple $100 a month and you have 6 figures of cash just in case something happens? And after she talked to some financial professionals, she came back to me and was like, that was a great idea, because it feels really more secure to have some cash on hand just in case something happens, where it's not all caught up in the
And again,
real
a lot of it depends on where you live. Are you in a place where you can build equity, or are you in a place where a home, let's say if you were to buy it, like I saw homes for sale. I was out on a run one day in Zion, Illinois, near where I grew up, and homes there have been the same price for the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Right? You can buy a home there for $200,000, but chances are in 10 years it might be still worth $200,000. So
Exactly.
That's something to look at. All right, let's get story 4.
Ron and Don's Top 5 at 5.
Number 4.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Veterans Day. I don't know if you saw this, and we should find out if we can play some of these calls on the podcast. I don't know if we can or not, because sometimes we get flagged if we play the sound. President Obama, there was a group of Vietnam vets.
Can I do a timeout on this? Because my father did one of these.
Sure.
There are these things called honor flights. Mm-hmm. And so what it is they will go around to a community and they'll talk to the VFWs and talk to the veterans groups. And they offer a free flight for veterans that were honorably discharged, hopefully ones that have gone to war, or ones that have seen combat or served during a time of war, get priority. And they fly you for free. So my brother and dad did this. My brother also served in the Army. And so a couple years ago, they were taking vets from Florida to Washington, D.C. And my dad was not in the greatest of health. He had, sort of needs a wheelchair for transportation sometimes. He can walk with a cane, but for long distances, it needs the wheelchair. So my brother and my dad went on a flight like this. So you wear your Veterans of Foreign War hat. You go out, and it's all expenses paid. So everybody met at the airport. They chartered this plane. All the veterans get on, and my brother was the escort.
Wow.
They sat together on the plane, fly to Washington, D.C. There's a bus waiting for them. And they went to not all the monuments, but a bunch of monuments, had a nice lunch, and then they flew them back that night back to Florida. And so these happen from different regions throughout the year, where they'll fill up an entire plane with veterans, take them to D.C., show them all the monuments to honor the veterans.
Yeah. So President Obama on Veterans Day showed up. Nobody knew that he was going to do this. Nobody in the media knew that he was going to do this. And, when a plane lands, usually the flight attendant will get on the loudspeaker and kind of go over what's happening with the weather.
Welcome to Washington, D.C.
How you make your connections, welcome, all that stuff. And instead, there was kind of this familiar voice, and guys look over, and it's President Obama. He's given announcements, and then he tells them all how much he appreciates them. And then he proceeds to stay there and greet every single one of them, and it was a packed flight. And this is something that he didn't do just on this Veterans Day, but I'll take you back to a number of years ago, and he talked about this on a podcast. And if you've never heard Admiral McRaven, the 4-star admiral, McRaven is the guy that talks about getting up every day and making your bed. He was part of a SEAL team. He was also the leader of JSOC. And if you don't know what JSOC is, it's an organization that they put together during the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. Because what they found out is we have all these tanks and all these Humvees. That's not the way to fight this war. The way to fight this war is to have special operators, the best of the best, to have SEAL teams, for instance, and to have guys that are part of the Army Rangers and guys that are night crawlers and gals that are night crawlers that can really fly in helicopters and planes. You know what we're going to do? We're going to put them all together, the best of the best. So you might have a helicopter going out, and this is what happened with Osama bin Laden. You might have some Green Berets that are on the same helicopter as a SEAL team, that are on the same helicopter that the night crawlers, who are the best pilots, might be flying. We're going to put the best of the best together, and we're going to go out in the middle of the night, and we're going to do bad things to bad men, right? And that's kind of how we ended up fighting the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. Anyway, there was a moment where President Obama wanted to come and thank those operators that did that. So everybody found out on the base that President Obama was there, Admiral McRaven was there, and so the special operators that were part of those SEAL teams and were part of capturing Osama bin Laden, he thanked them all. And then he stood there and he said, well, where are the rest? And they said it wasn't just these guys that did it. It was every single person that was a part of this, that was on this base. He said, I want to meet them all. So he stood there for hours, and Admiral McRaven came over and said, you're going to be here for hours.
Right.
He goes, then I'll be here for hours. And he shook every single one of their hands. And when guys working in the mess hall and when people working out there cleaning their trains and whatever else you do on a base found out that he was shaking hands, they all lined up, and he stood there and he shook their hands for hours, which I thought was pretty amazing. So thanks to all the veterans on this Veterans Day. We say hoorah, hoorah, semper fi, ding, ding, and air power to you. Story 5.
Ron and Don's Top 5 at 5.
Number 5.
Yeah. Your dad doesn't get emotional a lot. I'm glad that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had a thought. What if someone's listening to this and it's not 5?
That just occurred to you?
You know what? As a great country music song says, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Perfect.
Yeah, 5 o'clock somewhere. Top 5 at 5. Your thoughts? Rams taking on the Seahawks. Some people say they're the number 1, number 2 team in all the land. Certainly top 5. I will say this, though. Who have the Seahawks, their defense, who have they really played? They haven't played a great quarterback yet. And they certainly haven't played someone like Matthew Stafford, who's having one hell of a year. And I look at this game, and here's my concern, because the Seahawks are very young. And sometimes when you're very young, I don't want to see these guys actually go out and win this game. I want to see them go out and lose. I want to see them be competitive.
Stop the show.
Take that back.
I'm not taking it.
Take it back, O'Neill.
I'm not done. Let me finish.
Take it back.
I want to see them lose, and then you and I, together with a bunch of our buddies and friends and my son, December 18th, we've all decided we're going for Christmas, the home game, December 18th, Thursday Night Football. The Seahawks are going to play the Rams. Right after that, the playoffs start. It's very apparent that the Rams and Seahawks are going to be going to the. I don't want them to get the number 1 seed because the 12s have now become the 5s and 6s because everyone sells their tickets off. Seahawks play better on the road, so I don't want them to beat the Rams twice and get the number 1 seed. I say lose to the Rams the first time. Then that way you can go home, feel bad about yourself. Mike McDonald's going to have some tape. He's going to kick them in the, and then they're going to get ready, come back. December 18th, you win that game. You don't peak too early. You peak just in time for the playoffs, and then they win a game in front of us. My concern is we spend all this damn money, and we're going to go out there for a home game, and they're going to lose that game, and then they're going to win this game that we're not going to see because it's going to be down in L.A. Your thoughts? If you got to lose a game, lose the first one, win the second one. Don't tell me you're thinking they're going to win both of them because they're not.
I do not believe in tanking. It happens in basketball all the time where a franchise will tank and it just sets you back mentally and emotionally and the fan base. When you pay to see a ticket to go to a Seahawks game, they need to give you maximum effort every time. If you lose the game fair and square and the other team was better that day, great. But I never root for my team to lose. You did the same thing to the Mariners on their run to the World Series. And what happened? They lose Game 7. So if you hadn't wished that they lost that game so they could come back to Seattle, we would have been in the World Series and lost to the Dodgers. So I blame that on you.
This is apples and oranges.
No,
this
it's not apples and oranges.
Football. It's not the same thing.
And so you now are
That's
hoping
ridiculous.
that
Not
the
same.
Seahawks lose.
Not the same thing.
I always quote Herm Edwards. Why do we play? We play to win the game. So play to win. If they beat you that day, great. If they don't, these coaches are good enough to get film and make corrections,
and how many
win or lose.
How many Super Bowls and World Series did Herm Edwards win?
All of them.
0.
You play to win the game.
Yeah. And where's he now?
Exactly.
Herm who?
Yeah.
See you on the other side of this.
If you find yourself dreaming about a new home, go from just a dream to the Dream Team. Schedule your time at ronandonsitdown.com.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the Ron and Don Show. Let's talk about getting older. Yeah.
Happens every day.
Ron and I and all of us are getting older. Let's talk about warnings. I really like this when older people who have a lot more wisdom than we do, when they share with us younger folks or us midlife folks. Hey, here's some warnings. Here I am. And a lot of times these comes from hospice nurses, right? Of people they sit with. And they said, I've never talked to a person in hospice that says that they wish they would have worked more, right? We've never heard that. So here's some trap warnings from older folks, and you can read these on BuzzFeed if you like. And Ron, I'll just throw these at you. Some of the older folks have said, those of us that studied too much wish we would have partied more. And those of us that partied more wish we maybe would have partied a little less and spent some time studying more. What say you?
I think that's a brilliant piece of advice. And when I look back, a lot of these fall into the category of stuff that I wish I was taught. But I think that had I been taught that when I was younger, I may not have received it like this. Basically, they're talking about time blocking to where, you've talked about that a lot, where there's enough time in the day for you to actually do all the things you want, but it's not taught in a way that connects with people. And so if you set aside this time, it's like, there is a time to party. So don't feel bad about going out and having a good time. And there is a time to study. But if you go, even a time to exercise, there are people that exercise too much, and it actually is bad for their health if you over-exercise. And so it's this concept, but it's stated better in the thing that you just said.
Yeah. Another one talks about the dopamine rush that even older people get. And it's interesting when you walk through the airport, you never really saw older people stuck on their phones like see younger people, the rest of us. Everybody's on their phone now. And I'm amazed when I see 70 and 80-year-old people stuck on their phones. When I have relatives come to visit that are in their 70s and 80s, they're all locked into their phones. And sometimes I think it depends on, and I was thinking about this, what you use your phone for. And my son and I had a discussion about this the other day. Because I had looked at his phone and I saw the hours on his phone. And I said, why are you spending so much time on your phone? He said, because I use my phone to learn these Foo Fighter songs. And then he sat down and he showed me the phone, the app that he uses, and then he played these songs that sounded really great. And the thing is, you can play along with Dave Grohl now in the Foo Fighters. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably a good use of your phone because you're using your phone
as a tool
to learn music. In my case, like when I wake up in the morning, they say you shouldn't get right on your phone. You should put sunlight in your face and have a cup of coffee and all that. When I wake up, though, I like to read the paper. Well, the paper doesn't come to my house anymore, and the paper's on the phone. So I like to read the news on the phone. On the other hand, I started using the phone to read a book, and I noticed I wasn't sleeping as well. When I stopped using my phone at night, and you actually inspired me to do that. You said, hey, if you call me after this time, my phone's in the other room. I'm not gonna. So my son and I now put our phones in the other room. In fact, I have a book. We're going to talk about reading books. I'm back to reading paperback or hardcover books, and then I can track my sleep on my watch. When I go to sleep after reading a book, my REM sleep, which is the important sleep for longevity, is so much better. My deep sleep that comes at the end of your sleep cycle, and I sleep so much longer. If I'm reading my phone, and even if they say dim the screen and do the blue light and all that, it's really about having that. And even my pulse usually runs about. Do you look at your resting pulse because it's a good indicator? That and your VO2 max and all that, it's a good longevity indicator. It should be between 60 and 100 at night when you're sleeping. Mine is typically down in the 50s. If you train a lot, athletes are in the 40s or 50s. Mine, if I read on my phone, is around 59 to 62. If I read a book at night, it's down around 55, 54, 53, somewhere in there, right? Which is better. At least it's better for me. So they're right. If you're just sitting there, and I do not have TikTok on my phone, but since you can see a lot of TikTok videos now on Facebook, if I start looking at them, and I told you I'm watching this girl that jump. What do you think of the jump rope girl? I
can do about 2 of them, and I get it.
Oh,
like
I can watch that all day.
It's impressive. But
what I do now, though, is I look at it and I say, okay, I got 12 minutes, go, and I'm going to look at crazy videos for the next 12 minutes, and then I'm going to put this thing away, and if I'm doing it at night, then I'm going to do X, Y, or Z after that. So it's true. It disconnects you from human-to-human connection. You think you're having human connection with someone, but you're really not. And as you get older, a lot of these folks say you got to be careful of not just social media, but also for men and women, staying connected to friends and investing time in friendship.
Yeah, that's a huge warning, and I think that kids specifically watch what you do and not what you say. And so that's another. I always like these advice pieces because sometimes stuff just reminds you to do something you already knew, but you want to do better.
Yeah. I was out with someone that's a client, but also a really great friend. And we were sitting there yesterday in a house that we were looking at that they're thinking about buying. And then we found ourselves sitting at the kitchen table and talking for almost an hour. So I had to check in with the realtor to make sure it was okay that we were still there. And we were talking, we were reminiscing. And it was interesting at the end of this conversation, you know what he said to me? He goes, you know what? We're always going to have this. He goes, as we get older and we age, we're always going to have this. And he goes, this is the most important thing that we have this. And then I sent him a video last night, and I've shared it before. I played it in my spin class. It's a video by Ben Rector. Ben Rector is a Canadian artist, and he's in a band in high school, and everybody in the band in high school had a job. One guy was the enforcer, the other guy was the ladies' man, the other guy always gotten everyone in trouble. And so he wrote this song called You Can't Make New Old Friends. And he went and he knocked on the door of his old house, and he asked the people, can I rent the garage from you? And they said, for what? He goes, I want to put my band back together. I've written this song. And instead of using his band, like the Ben Rector band, he went to all his old buddies and said, I want you to play this song on my album. So they set up their garage band just like they did when they were 14, 15, 16 years old. And then he plays this song, New Old Friends, and he goes through, and there's a verse. It's a rather long song because there's a verse on each and every one of them. But it's really true. The friendships that we make and that we invest in, you have to invest in those when you're younger. It really makes a difference as you get, and you're really good at that. Like you do, we have a friend, and you particularly have invested a lot of time, energy in one of our buddies that has gone through a really hard time. He recently has moved up here, and that's someone that you've been investing time, and he's been investing time since we were probably 27, 28 years old when we lived in the Bay. He was one of our callers, Nutsack from Oaktown. He used to call in, write things. He's one of our best callers, one of our best emailers, or was it the fax machine? I don't know if you could email.
He sent faxes and.
But you guys have now been friends for decades.
Yeah, I cut over 20 years, maybe 25 years, and so I agree with you on that. And those are the thing that I think that we've lost. If I'm going to be the old man giving advice, is the concept that you just talked about. Me hitting a thumbs up on your post is not investing in our friendship.
Yeah.
Me going co-signing for something that a picture that you posted on Instagram is not investing in our friendship. When I like to do this, and you do this as well, if I see that it's Matt's birthday on Facebook, I don't click the heart next to happy birthday. I want to call or text Matt off of the platform and say happy birthday. And it's those things, and that needs to be taught in a way.
Yeah.
To say, hey, here's how you invest in a relationship. It's not on your phone, unless you're using the phone to get directions to their house.
Or the phone is a phone.
Or you're
using
the
calling
phone as a
someone
phone.
on the phone, yeah.
And so like those sort of things, which I seem obvious, but they're not obvious. Yeah. And I always think of, I don't know if you've seen these videos where someone our age will give their kids a bunch of things and say, they give them a cassette tape or a Rolodex or an actual phone that was on the wall. And they go, what is this? And the kids don't know what it is. And why should they? Because they've never seen them before. And the older folks chuckle. You have to teach someone and show them, here's how you build a relationship. I'm going to make dinner for you. I'm going to go to your house and help you with a project. I'm going to call you on the phone and make an appointment. I got an extra ticket to something and I'm going to invite you to that. And if you do that over and over again and make that a habit, that's how you have the dividends. Just like there's tons of people that just heart stuff that I have online that I've never even met. That we're just Ron and Don fans. And I like it. I appreciate it. But that's not a real friendship.
Yeah. A naked picture is a naked picture. You're going to throw a heart on it, even if it's just Matt. So
wow.
Anyway, thanks for those naked. Next time you're to do those, Matt, just send them to us personally. Just text them to us. You don't need to post those. We know you're hot. So
right.
So anyway, what's interesting about that is when I was at, because we always hear this. Get off your phones. But then the question is, well, what are you doing on your phone while you're on your phone? So that's what made me explore and think, when I use my phone, what am I using it for? And I was having this discussion with my boy also. And I said, are you reading anything? Are you reading anything about history? Or are you reading a book? And he wasn't. And I said, okay, well, you know what we'll do is let's get some books. We'll start a book club, even if it's only you and I. So he's interested right now in American history because they don't teach American history. They teach world history. He doesn't know anything about American history. So we're reading books now on American history and watching some shows on American history. Last night we were doing that. And I was explaining World War I and World War II to him, which is right in my honking wheelhouse. So I love that. And then also how to meet a girl. How do you meet a girl? And so there's some books that we're reading right now about if you want to be in a situation where you can have a great conversation with someone, have a great conversation with everyone. And I said, do you notice when I go in the store that I talk to everybody in the store? He goes, yeah, it's a little obnoxious sometimes. I said, but do you notice when I go in the store, and I go in that store often, that I know everyone's name in that store? He goes, yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I said, do you notice when I go in that store and I talk to Ann Ann, who works in that store, is 80 years old. And do you know Ann's story? Do you know that Ann's husband is homesick and that she works in this store so that she has health benefits to take care of him? And do you know that Ann used to be a teacher at your school over at Co Elementary? And so on and on and on. And I said, that's the thing about if you can have a conversation with Ann and you can have a conversation with Joe the grocer in there, or you can talk to Eric, whose 2 kids are off playing sports and in college now, then you can talk. That'll empower you. You can talk to a pretty girl as well. And he's like, I don't get it. So anyway, we changed the subject. Let's do this. Let's take a break. And then when we come back, we'll do the final segment of the Ron and Don show. Does that sound good?
Perfect.
All right, more in a minute.
Ron and Don, from radio to real estate. When you're ready to grab a cup of coffee and sit down with the guys, go to ronanddonsitdown.com.
He's mad off the mic, behind the scene, don't you know? It's mailbag time on the Ron and Don show. It's mad off the mic, behind the scene, don't you know? It's mailbag time on the Ron and Don show. It's mad off the mic.
All right, you guys, don't forget, if you want to get in touch with us, ronanddon.com. We can talk radio, real estate. You can sign up for a sit-down, or you can send us a piece of mail as well.
Man, you could have spun to this song back in the day.
Yeah. It looks like it's 88 BPM. Yeah.
Out of the saddles, everybody.
Yeah. Anyway, Matt is here. We're going to have him get on the mic. Matt, if you turn your mic on. Boy, it seems like the mailbag today is just brimming with mail. It's like you're the Santa Claus of mail over there, and it's like December 24th, and everyone's trying to get their mail in before the fat man flies around in a sleigh, right? And I didn't mean anything by fat man. But even though you're wearing red today, you look great. So don't take that the wrong way. Anyway, what kind of mail do we have today, Matt?
Can I just... I know you don't like it when I give you stage directions and things like that, but you're promoting to people watch on video.
Yes.
Yeah, on Spotify and YouTube. You can watch watch the Ron and Don show, see everything that happens.
Thank you.
And then
Except you. There's no camera on you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's why he's Matt off the mic.
Okay.
So maybe if we're going to do the paper gag,
Yeah.
maybe I would do it and it wouldn't be on camera.
Okay, let's do it again.
And
Ready?
then-
Take 2.
No, I think it's fine. Let's just go. Okay,
Yeah.
so we do have some quite a few letters. You're right. It's boy,
do.
the mailbag is really overflowing. I'll tell you what.
Okay.
The first letter comes from Ken in Kent.
Okay.
Interesting. The
says-
alliteration's back.
It's amazing how that happens.
Kevin Kent.
Ken in Kent says, "Ron and Don,
Yeah.
yo!" Exclamation point.
That's nice.
One time a while back, and now I can't find it. He says, you did a segment about the things you were reading, watching, and listening to. I loved that segment.
Yeah.
It really gave me some great ideas. When are you going to do that segment again?
Should we do it right now?
Let's do it right now.
Let's do it right now. All right. Should we start with Ron? Is that what we should do? Let's start with Ron. Ron, anything you're reading, listening to? What was it again? Ken and Kent? Listening?
Let's say reading, watching, and listening to.
Reading
Yeah.
all that? Okay.
So I'm being serious about this. I just finished a book. It's Ta-Nehisi Coates' latest book called The Message. And you were talking about American history and your son getting into American history. You know what? I'm going to bring the book by if you think that you'll read it. Ta-Nehisi Coates is a very important author in America, and he has carved out this space where he wants to kind of share and put a highlight on a little bit of alternative history coming from a black perspective. And the thing that I like about him, even though I don't agree with every single thing he's ever written, what he presents makes you really think about American exceptionalism. And so Americans in American history, because we were the victors in World War I and the victors in World War II, we got to write a history about American exceptionalism. And that sort of has metastasized and grown to, in my mind, in a lot of ways when you think about the Christian nationalist movement and things of that nature, where it's become this thing that is not really accurate. There is a lot of stuff and ingredients that went into building America, including slavery and some really dark times of treatments of Native Americans, etc. And so what Ta-Nehisi Coates does in The Message, and also in his first book, which was Between the World and Me, which I highly recommend as well, is he talks about in a way that is unique to his voice of don't forget about the black experience in America. There's a reason why in the city of Seattle that 35% of the homeless people are black. There's a reason why when you look around at specific jobs like janitors, like drivers, like service industry, low-paying wages, you will see a disproportionate number of people of color. That didn't happen by accident. And so what Ta-Nehisi Coates does, especially for a young mind like your son, is that I think he opens up the lens to say, it's not a bad thing to see all of the history.
Yep.
And so to see that, yes, we did go over to Europe and help defeat fascism in World War II. And at the same time, those black soldiers, when they came back to America, could not go into a diner in the South and get breakfast, even if they were wearing a Medal of Honor, even if they were wearing a gold star. That person came back after being a war hero and worked a menial job. Why is that? And so the message from Ta-Nehisi Coates is in 3 chapters, three acts. It's a letter to his writing students at the college that he teaches at. And you leave it going, I never thought of that. I never looked at it that way. As a white guy, especially a middle-aged white guy, there every single page you're like, I didn't know that about American history. And I'm going to have, he gives you the sources. I'm going to have to go and look into that. And I'm going to have to read that. And how do I fold that in to the way that I think about America and the way I think about its history, its past, its present, and its future? So the message by Ta-Nehisi Coates, I encourage everyone to read his work. You're not going to agree with everything. There will be frequent periods of being uncomfortable where you have to go, wow, did that really happen? And then you go and cross-reference it and you're like, how does that change what I think about the founding fathers? How does it change about the way I think about the world wars? How does it change the way I think about current America? And it's really, I think, important to read voices like that because at the end of it, and I'm not saying you're going to become anti-American or whatever. I'm now woke. It's like history is complicated. History has a lot of ingredients, and reading a voice that gives you something that you don't get anywhere else, that is factually accurate and well-researched, is invaluable. So if you want, I'll bring that book because I just finished it. It's not a long read. I think it's 180 pages or something. I would love to see what you and your son think of it because it's a real eye-opener.
Yeah, and that's the value of travel, right? We were talking in the last segment about warnings from older people to younger people, and they said one thing you need to do is work a little less, travel a little more. I remember when we all went to, and I'm going to talk about Normandy here in a moment, we all went to the beaches of Normandy, and Dale, who was our guide, had been a British paratrooper. And Dale did a beautiful job of explaining, well, it wasn't just the Americans that landed that day on the beach. In fact, they took 2 of the beaches. 2 other beaches were taken by the British, and then there was another beach taken by the Canadians that fought for the Commonwealth. So when you saw them, they looked like British soldiers. They wore the same. And his question was this: who made a greater sacrifice that day? Because if you think about it, when America went to war, we created the biggest army the world had ever seen, the biggest modern army. And in fact, when Pearl Harbor happened, we had 1.8 million soldiers. By the time, 2.5, 3 years later, when we had to fight in 2 different theaters, many different theaters, we went out and recruited 14 million soldiers to go fight in Europe.
Drafted.
In Japan. Recruited, drafted, both, because some just signed up. And what's interesting about that is there were 160 million Americans to choose from. With Canada, when you find out there were 500,000 Canadians that fought in World War II, Canada at the time, their population was only 11 million, right? So what a sacrifice, his point, what a sacrifice the Canadians made. Or to your point, Ron, we shoot a little closer to home. We all go out and play in Discovery Park. There's a book called On American Soil, when there were 1 million soldiers, and then we'd embark off to different theaters, and also it was used as a prison camp, and there were Italian soldiers there, German soldiers, and the way that the pecking order worked in that park, and there's a lot of African American soldiers in that park as well, White soldiers ate first. And then the prisoners of war who were white ate second. And then the African-American soldiers were allowed to eat third. There's a brutal murder that happened out in Discovery Park. It was always blamed on the black soldiers. And it was actually involved some of the white soldiers out there. And you can read about that on American soil. Go to the cemetery out there and look at the way, because there's a cemetery out in Discovery Park. Look at the way the black soldiers were buried. Look at the way the white soldiers were buried. And then look at the way that the prisoners of war, because two of them, one was an Italian, and the Italian was murdered, and the blacks were blamed for that, the African Americans. And then there's also a prisoner of war out there who was German. He died as well. And look at the way they are celebrated in that park versus the black soldiers. So I when we were doing Big Brothers, Big Sisters, I always... and I remember vividly not really understanding what it was like to be a young black person in America today until I was a big brother of a young black boy. When you get in the proximity of that, or when we went and volunteered our time at Cleveland High School, and we were around a lot of black and brown kids, or growing up in New Mexico, working in a dish room around everyone that spoke Spanglish, and almost everybody was from Mexico in that dish room. When you're in the vicinity and the proximity of people that don't look like you or maybe think like you, it changes you. And that's certainly what happens when you travel, especially when you look at history and the way that history is explained. Sometimes the Americans get credit for World War II, and they should, but they get all the credit, and they should not.
So those two books, The Message by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and your book is called On American Soil. It's by a local author. I don't remember his name, but On American Soil.
Yeah. What about podcasts? Anything you're listening to?
Podcasts, this one will be a little bit dry, but I like to be around and listen to people that are much smarter than me. David Frum, the columnist, just started a podcast. And if you've ever, I don't know if you read his stuff at all.
I do. I love him.
He's very, very smart.
He's a great writer.
And what he does with his podcast is he starts with an essay that he's written, and he thinks in a way that is just really elevated and precise. And then he'll usually have an interview afterward. I don't like all the interviews, but his top of the hour essays are worth a listen.
And you feel like you're pretty smart if you've read any of it, and you walk away feeling like you
learn something.
Yeah, and you always, and there's some people like George Will write stuff sometimes in his essays.
Yeah,
I don't always, even when he's writing about baseball, I don't totally understand what he said, so I don't feel smarter. With David Frum, you do. You feel like he explains it to you in a way where you're like, yeah, I get, and you know he could talk about it in an even more elevated fashion where you wouldn't understand it.
Right.
Yeah. So
if you like to learn something when you listen to podcasts, the David Frum Show, it's brand new. He's sort of finding his footing in being a podcaster because it's a new medium for him, but it's worth a listen. Like he's a very talented guy.
And what's he talking about that you're connected with?
He does a lot of politics, but he'll expand it to include things that no one else that I've listened to does.
Yeah.
Like most people give you like level 1 stuff, and he's like, okay, let me take you down to level 2 and 3, and this is actually connected to that, and the economy does this and that. So he takes a more holistic view, and he has, as Jim Rome would say, he has some hot takes.
Okay. Real quick, I have a very, very exciting update for you guys, and for Matt. Can I get a drum roll, please? Just in time for the holidays, the Real Brady Bros is back. Where are you?
I was trying to find my booze.
The Real Brady Bros is back. That's just it. Is that Alice back there booing? You're booing your own show. What's the matter with you? You know who that is? It's the Partridge Family. They don't like the fact we're talking about the real. Danny Bonaducci, sit down. Yeah. Anyway. Just in time for the holidays, you guys, the Real Brady Bros. This is what they're talking about. And I don't want to wreck it for everyone.
I got through about 10 minutes of one episode. It's so unlistenable.
It's Greg Brady and it's Peter Brady, and they're talking about what it used to be like back in the day on the Brady Bunch and who did the ha with who. This is what I found out that's very interesting. Ann B. Davis, who played Alice, they asked her to do a cookbook. And the problem is she couldn't cook.
Oh, she's an actor.
So what she did is she went to the Brady Bros, and Peter is actually a really good cook.
Really?
He helped her write the cookbook, and then they went to some of the other kids. They're like, hey, Jan, do you got a recipe? Hey, Cindy, you got a recipe? So they put together recipes. Ambi Davis pretended like the recipes were her, which they were not. And then this is what's really great. She ended up selling a shiznit load of these cookbooks.
Why wouldn't she?
Yeah, I want to buy a cookbook after this. In fact, I'm going to see if I can find one. I would like to have a real Brady Christmas, wouldn't you?
Probably dishes right in
You
your
know
wheelhouse.
what she did is she sent a check to everyone that gave a recipe, and she said, hey, you're the ones that really wrote the cookbook, so you deserve a check. So she gave all
Good
them
for her.
Yeah. So isn't that interesting? And then
Well, see, now I don't need to listen to the podcast.
Also,
because what would have taken
I'm not even
like a half an hour for them to do, you did
what
in 2
about
minutes.
a very Brady Christmas when they go to Hawaii? Do you remember this?
Yeah, and the amulet
and
that he finds.
they see Jack Lord from Hawaii Five-0.
Right.
Yeah.
And he finds the necklace or whatever.
So anyway, yeah, and it's bad luck, right?
Right, the omen.
Guess where it is?
Hopefully in the ocean.
Nope. Another guess. Matt, do you have a guess? Matt on the mic, off the mic?
Sam the Butcher's house.
That's a good... I love that you remember Sam the Butcher. I
well,
love that.
Sam loved...
he loves
the maid,
Alice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Tiger's Doghouse.
What's that?
Tiger's Doghouse.
Thank you for remembering Tiger's Doghouse and the artificial field out back. Right?
The grass.
And also on one of the other episodes, they talk about how the Brady car was always changing, and they never really explained that. No, I'll give you one more guess.
He has a...
I just guessed.
No, you have a horn. You have a wrong answer.
Yeah, there you go.
I under the bunk bed.
Greg has it in his safe at home.
Okay.
It's in his safe at home.
See, now I don't need to listen to this
Let
podcast.
me ask you this.
The podcast is
true or
horrible.
false? Greg has sat down and watched the real Brady Christmas with his kids.
True.
His real kids.
Can I tell you how little I care about the answer to this question?
He never has.
Oh my God, travesty.
He's never sat down and watched it with the kids.
With everything I have in my being.
And finally, who was a Shakespearean actor on the Brady Bunch that didn't want to be on the Brady Bunch because he wanted to be doing Shakespeare, and then he would
Bob
die.
Denver.
He would die later on of AIDS. Who was that?
Bob Denver.
No, it's not Sherwood Schwartz. Bob Denver was Gilligan on Gilligan's Island. Wrong. Matt, do you have a guess?
Alan Hale. No.
No.
With all that is in me, do not patronize this podcast.
Is this a regular?
It was the dad.
It's the dad.
It was the dad.
Oh, yeah.
The dad was a Shakespearean actor.
Bob Denver was a Shakespearean actor.
Well, he was a little buddy.
That doesn't mean he wasn't Shakespearean.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Was he?
Yeah.
Oh.
He was
He
also
was an actor.
He was.
With a
Okay.
capital A.
Yeah, he was
Maynard on the Dobie Gillis show.
that back in the day. Yeah. Anyway, isn't that interesting? There's so many other interesting facts that I don't want to wreck it, but just in time for the holidays, you get you. And
Now,
I have to say,
I will tell you the podcast I would listen to.
And he said the other thing is he always.
What are you with
No,
Welcome
this is
Back
great.
Kotter all of a sudden?
He said he never ate the food during a really Brady Christmas because the food sometimes because they'd have to shoot things over and over again.
Yeah.
He said he would never eat the food. He said, but Peter always ate the food.
You know what show
And
I
sometimes the food was 3, 4, 5 days old and had maggots in it. He said, and Peter would still eat it.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
I want, if this happened for Gomer Pyle.
And there were no bedrooms upstairs. When you went up the stairs, no beds up there. But they have redone the Brady house with bedrooms, and you could go stay in it as Airbnb. That's on.
I
That's
would
on there
listen
too.
to a Gomer Pyle podcast.
I would too.
But this one's
I
horrible.
think they're all dead.
Yeah,
and Gomer
Jim
Pyle
Neighbors.
can sing opera.
Jim Neighbors could sing.
He could sing opera.
It was bad, but he
Yeah.
could sing.
What about Barney Fife? What if the whole town of Mayberry
Right.
on the Andy Griffith Show with Barney Fife, if they could sit down, Ron Howard would be there, Andy Griffith would be there, Aunt B would be. By the way, they all hated Aunt B, and Aunt B hated them too. There was no love lost with Aunt.
Ron Howard's
with
opened
Aunt
up
B.
a lot in recent interviews about the Andy Griffith Experience.
Which he
if
said.
you just search on YouTube, it's interesting stuff.
It is really good. Yeah. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Anyway, reading. Do you have anything else in the mailbag? We're getting short on time. What do we got?
I do have one more.
Oh, what do we got?
You want to save it? For
Yeah,
another
let's
time?
go. Yeah, what do we got?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is from Arlene in Arlington.
Great.
Okay. Arlene.
Up north.
And she says Ron and Dan, which
Oh,
I think
boy.
that's probably a typo.
That might be a
I'm
typo.
guessing.
Yeah.
I recently read an article in The Atlantic Atlantic Magazine, I guess that would be, right? Entitled, she says, "The age of anti-social media is here," declaring that the social media era is over. You gentlemen often talk about screens, kids, and our loss of human connection therein.
Therein?
Yes.
Wow.
They wrote therein?
This is quite
And then followed by and she called you gentlemen too. I thought that was interesting. Followed by a semicolon, and she says, "I'm curious as to your take on this, quote, anti-social media movement."
Ron, what are your thoughts?
Sincerely, Arlene from
Thank you, Arlene. They didn't have to deal with this in Mayberry. I'll tell you that right now.
Smoky Point, Washington.
Well, I don't know, this
The
is
Real Brady Bros does not cover this stuff.
No, this is a very long article that's interesting, and the crux of it is that social media as we know it is sort of nearing its end, but it's being replaced by chatbots.
Yeah.
And they talk about the evolution of these chatbots, which is going to be a force multiplier towards isolation and loneliness. And it's pretty remarkable the number of people that have, in a sense, befriended. Their social interactions are with a computer-generated person or a computer-generated entity. And Elon Musk's AI, which is called Grok, is rolling out chatbots that will get explicit with the clients. And in fact, there's one version of this that as you get more and more progress along this chatbot thing, that the avatar for the person you're interacting with will disrobe for you. And they talk about the psychological ramifications of this. And I think it's... 5 years ago, I would have joked about this. I'm not joking anymore about it because I think that, especially for younger men in particular, that may be awkward socially, and you start interacting with an avatar that is an attractive female that is kind of sycophantic, where it praises you and does anything you want at any time that you want,
or tells you commit suicide. There are parents right now that are suing some of these companies because their chatbot has encouraged their child to commit suicide, and they did, even down to the final act. You have to parent differently today, and you really this is one of those things where you can't check out and allow screens, because it used to be, well, is my kid, playing Tetris or something for too long on their screen? It's very, very different now. And that's, as I was saying earlier on the show, not only do you need to look at your kid's screen time, but specifically I can look at everything that my kid is looking at and have discussions about that. And it's going to be very important to have those discussions. And if you wonder, is it too early to have that discussion? It's probably too late. Because any discussion I have with him, when we start chatting about something and I really appreciate the conversations that we have.
Thanks to Arlene in Arlington that brought up a story that we had.
No,
thoughtful of her.
Hey, we have a meeting every 2 weeks. We sit down and we have a list and we contribute to the list and we talk about. And the first thing I ask about, and he asks me, is how's your mental health? That is our first conversation. And then we talk about money, we talk about finance, we talk about friends, we talk about dating, we talk about sex. We've talked about this story, we talk about all of it. So you have to be very, very engaged, because otherwise somebody else is educating your kid. And it can be too late. So, and I don't think it has to be scary, because there's a lot of things out there in technology that are great. I'm very appreciative for this phone, the technology, even the fact that we can sit here now without a radio tower and we can get this letter from Arlington, which, by the way, came down on horseback.
Yes, it did.
Arlene is old school, and
with a quill. It was like
and the guy knocked on our door, and didn't he say 2 if I land, 1 if I see, when he dropped off Arlene's letter? Didn't he say that?
She's from Smoky Point, it turns out.
Oh, Smoky Point.
Weird thing is the horse got up to the second floor.
Yeah,
which is hard to get him back down if you've ever owned a farm animal.
Yeah, we got a great freight elevator here. So anyway, hey, you guys, thanks for listening to this episode of the Ron and Don Show. And don't forget, you can listen to the Ron and Don Show during the week. You can also, Matt, watch it, right? We want everyone to watch it.
That's right, Don. You can watch it on Spotify or on YouTube.
Wow, is that your radio DJ voice? That was fantastic.
That's my radio DJ voice.
That's great. Okay. Anyway. Also, don't forget,
anything.
if you need us for real estate purposes, now is a great time, you guys. If you're thinking about selling, we should be getting your house ready to sell now. I was overseeing a client yesterday. We went and we did a tour of her house, and then we also did an inspection. I went there with John. We're getting ready to sell her house next year. So this is when you sit down, you inspect, you come up with a strategy. What are the things we're going to fix? And then we come up with a strategy of when we're going to list and how much we think we're going to put in our pockets after paying for stuff. Because if you're going to paint, well, you got to pay for paint, right? So anyway, great time if you're thinking about listing to talk to us now at ronanddonsitdown.com. But if you're thinking about buying, we should be out looking at homes and educating ourselves now. Ron, we walked into a house yesterday on Queen Anne with a buyer. Did you see how many cards? There had been probably 25, 30 realtors already through this home, but the house was still sitting there. We haven't seen this in a very long time.
Yeah, so now's the time to buy. Rewind earlier in this episode where you can see the reason why when we brought out the whiteboard. And we can set up a meeting and look more specifically at zooming in on areas that you're interested in. So go to ronanddonsitdown.com or ron@ronanddon.com.
What camera are you looking at? You're looking at that one, and I think Matt wants you to look at that one. And then he's always pointing at me to look over at that one.
It's just, right now when we close, we both
So I'm looking at this one?
No, we want to look at camera 2.
Okay, this one over here?
Camera 2.
Right here.
And just say, you're listening only. And
You're listening to Ron and Don Show only on the Ron and Don Radio Network. Thanks to everyone. Did I already do that?
Go Hawks!
Go Hawks!
See! Hawks! See! Hawks!
Arlene! You're supposed to say Arlington. That's not alliteration. Over the cobbles, they clattered and clashed. All right, you guys. We'll see you next week.
Well, that's it. Show's over. We'll see you next time on the Ron and Don Radio Network.